Hello everyone, welcome to the new episode of Professionals Unplugged. I am your host Utkarsh Shukla and let me introduce you to my guest Mary. Mary, thank you so much for joining in.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mary. So let's start with our very basic question. Can you please introduce our audience about yourself? Like who you are, what work you do, anything you want to talk about yourself.
Sure. Thank you. So my name is Mary-Rita. Most people call me Mary. I am a transpersonal practitioner and also a creative depth coach. So I've been on quite a journey over the last couple of years, completing my master's in consciousness and spirituality and transpersonal psychology, and have been slowly building my coaching profile for the last year. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is conscious storytelling. So really consciously stepping into your own story, using archetypes, mythology, symbolism, and creativity. And just to sort of share a little bit, that I started my career in performing arts. So I've done a lot in theatre, acting, and performance, which is where this journey started. I did my creative expressive therapies degree and realized that creativity is an amazing vehicle to work with people through creative process as a bridge to transform. And so I get very excited about that work.
That's pretty cool. So can you just enlighten us on the title that you just told us, like transpersonal psychology or conciseness, right? So can you just enlighten us on the same,
Sure.
like how it works?
Of course. So transpersonal psychology is a branch of human sciences, and it comes from this exploration of going beyond yourself. And so that we start to think about our relationship to others, but also to the planet and to all living beings on the planet. And then further into consciousness, so thinking about our relationship to the universe and to the cosmos, and to this sense that we're all connected and we're all interconnected in some way. And that's one of the real touchstones of transpersonal psychology. There are many definitions, but one of the things I've always loved working with is that sense that we build a relationship beyond ourselves. And in doing that, we become much more self-aware on that journey. Consciousness and spirituality are part of that. But I think that the spirituality element is not about being religious as such. It's about having a value system or a belief system that goes beyond yourself, that you are part of something bigger. And whether that's through a religious lens or a spiritual lens or just a sense-making lens, this is why this kind of work deepens your experience to the human condition, to being human. What does it mean? Who am I? Why am I here? So I hope that gives a kind of idea.
Yeah, right. It answers my question. So I just have one more question on the same. Like once we start reading about psychology or transpersonal psychology, we know like somehow we are connected to this world or to everyone around us. But after sometimes it just fade away from us and we get back to our normal lives, right? So do you think there is any way like we can have those things be part of ourselves and we are always aware? Not always, but at least in a day's time we are aware of like we need to know we are also connected with the world because in today's social media world we know we are getting more and more disconnected to the real world and more connected towards the
Yeah.
virtual world. So I think it's a pretty important. So just I wanted to know how we can be connected to it.
Absolutely. And just such a brilliant question as well, because this is my passion, to bring transpersonal ideas to the streets. And if anyone knows me, this has always been this sort of dream to make it accessible, to make it part of our everyday lives. And there are several ways that you can do this, depending on the practitioner, the coach, or the psychologist that you're working with. For me in particular, I'm really interested in the role of ritual. So when we have ritual in our lives, we create containers and times within our day that are specifically for that sort of self-awareness. And transpersonal practices fit within ritual because it's that sense of showing up on a daily basis. And it doesn't have to be something huge. My practice is to do 20 minutes of meditation in the morning. And then I work with archetypal energy. So I call in the energy of the 3 archetypes that I personally work with. And then I also show a sense of gratitude. I might pull a tarot card or an oracle card just to kind of have that sense of being connected to the spiritual part of me. And that starts my day. It starts my day every single day. And when I don't do that, I feel a bit disconnected. But what we can do is just take these practices and just find something that really connects with us, that allows us to connect with the other, with the relationship with the planet and beyond. And when we do something every day, it begins as a habit, but there becomes this moment where habit turns into ritual. It becomes something with meaning. And I was asked recently on a transpersonal psychology workshop, what is the difference between habit and ritual? Well, a habit is unconscious. We do it. We brush our teeth. No one tells us to brush our teeth. We just do it automatically, autopilot. But ritual is we move into that space intentionally. So we choose to go into that space on a daily basis with a sense of connecting to a deeper awareness and, participating in the wonder of the world. And I have in my value system is always to try and encourage a sense of awe in people. So every day that something happens in the ordinary, everyday life, not when we're, having a peak experience because we've gone on a spiritual quest, but when we get that awe or that sense of wonder just in our everyday lives, that's so special. And I've seen it happen time and time again with my clients. I run moon circles and I've witnessed this happen when we come together in ritual. It's a very special experience.
That's pretty awesome answer. I think you just tell us like how habit is different from rituals, because till now I was also in a thought that it is just like a habit that you are trying to convey, but no, it's totally different. Like the example you have given of brushing your teeth. So it's something that we do out of the box, not knowing what we are performing. But when it comes to the ritual, we know for what reasons we are performing it. And we want
Yes.
that sense of conciseness in ourselves to know that we are trying it to be connected to the world, right? That can be in any form, right? So if you can just give us some examples of more like how you can do this as a form of rituals, like when you gave us that through meditating, right? So is there any other ways as well, like that we can practice in day-to-day life?
Of course, there are so many different ways. One is, lighting a candle. Lighting a candle at the end of the day, and with that candle showing a little gratitude for what's happened during the day. Another is prayer. If people kind of connect to prayer, whether that's within a religious context or outside of religion, just setting intention. This is another thing that you can do. Another thing is creating a space in your bedroom or your living room that is all about ritual. So it might be that you place a crystal there or a special stone or, a message, some kind of, and I'm not going to say an affirmation or a positive message, but just something that really strikes a chord with you personally. And it might not be a positive message. It might be something completely different, but it just allows you to check in with yourself on that level. For example, I work with sacred space, and sacred space is created through intention. You create a space through intention to make it sacred. And by making it sacred, you might add something to the space, a color, a symbol, a stone, an object, a message. And then through that intention of sitting in that same space, each time you want to perform your ritual, you're creating a sense of purpose and meaning. And each time you return to that space, you're deepening that relationship with the ritual. And what I recommend people to do is to do, is to do a small practice every day. Just try to add one new thing, not lots of different things. So it's just this one element that you want to change, that you want to be connected to this sense of purpose and meaning that goes beyond our personal selves into the sort of collective self. And another thing people can do is send a message to somebody. If they're thinking about somebody, they can send a message, that sort of shows gratitude for that person. This is about us all being connected and interconnected. Being of service is another one. Volunteering or being of service, being there in the way that you show up for your tribe or your community. Because I think community is such an important part of transpersonal practice. This is not an isolated journey. This is something that we're all doing. And when we speak about these together, and it could be, it doesn't have to be a spiritual group. I'm part of a writers group and we meet once a month. To me, that is a transpersonal practice, because as we come and share together, something happens. We're transformed through the stories that are shared and how we support each other. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a pretty crystal clear answer, I think, that I got from you. Like you have given a pretty very small details to a very large one as well. So I think everyone can connect now, whether they are from
Yes.
any age group as well. I think these are the practices that anyone can do at their home, like by sending messages or having something at their rooms or as a posters or any codes that they are having. So I hope it will help everyone to know how to do these practices.
I really hope so. And I'm really pleased that you mentioned younger or different generations, because my journey through this process of transpersonal psychology was with young people, young people who are coming from adolescence into adulthood. Now, this ritual and this rite of passage is so important, but we don't mark it. We have nothing in our society that truly marks that ritual. Yes, we have graduation. Yes, we have, well done on an academic level, but what about the spiritual, the emotional, the journey that you go on from adolescence into adulthood? And so for young people in particular, I think that engaging with ritual is very important, because it helps to make sense of what's happening. When there's no markers on the outside, it's about finding that on the inside as well.
Correct. And you have also mentioned you are also an actor and involved with the arts, right? So what role does it
Yes.
has to play in your life and how it is related with psychology?
Well, my journey with the theatre, performing arts, and drama in particular has always been infused with psychology. When I first started my journey, I wanted to do drama and psychology as my major in university. And then I deferred. And then several years later, I ended up doing creative expressive therapies. So it looked at drama as a pathway and as a tool for people to use to explore themselves. Because I think drama is very powerful in a storytelling way. Drama is a vehicle because we get to embody somebody else, or we get to embody a different persona. We get to be beyond ourselves through the lens of character, through role. I particularly use masks a lot, because I think the mask is a very powerful tool to get us outside of ourselves. And, Oscar Wilde said, give a man a mask and he'll tell you the truth. And I've always been really fascinated with the paradox of a mask conceals your face, but somehow allows you to reveal yourself. And that's been something I have found so powerful. I've studied and researched a lot, used it a lot in my research for my master's. And so the journey, drama is a form of psychology, because it's the human condition. It's people. Psychology is to know a person. And if we go to the deeper meaning of psychology, the word psyche, psyche means soul. And so that journey of the soul through psychology is also the same with drama. Drama is a process of the soul, invocation, ritual, embodiment, especially when you look at drama back, in sort of the ancient Greek times, when we look at the connection to the gods, where drama and theatre, was linked to Dionysus. And so in order to invoke Dionysus, you would create ritual to bring him into being. So drama and psychology sit in this place of exploring the deeper human experience. And that's why I feel they connect so well.
Right, I totally agree. Just one question on the same, like you mentioned, you are using dramas and this acting in the form of a therapy, right? So how that thing works means what is the process for the same?
Okay, so I don't actually use it as a form of therapy. I'm more of a coach and a practitioner, but it is a therapeutic tool. And that's
Okay,
the most important distinction. As a therapist, you can use drama, and as a coach and a facilitator, you can use drama. All of them can have therapeutic outcomes, but it's about the intention of the coach or the facilitator with their clients. And so personally, I've chosen to go more into coaching and facilitating than therapy. But how I use theatre, storytelling, and masks is through the lens of mythology. So if I'm working with a client, the Journey Path Institute, which I trained as a depth coach, uses mythology for people to start looking at their own story through a symbolic lens. And often you can not just explore that myth together, but you can act out that myth. So you might take on the role of this mythical archetype. And that's where you're, instead of it being you as a person, you will start to speak from the place of Merlin or the place of Dionysus or the place of, Ganesha. You start to look at the archetypes of these mythological gods and goddesses, and you bring them into the conversation through drama. And you create dialogues. You create dialogues with these archetypes. And drama is very useful to work with archetypal energy. And this is kind of my area that I work with clients, is through the archetypal lens, what I would call the archetypal realm, because we're working with different symbolism depending on the needs of the client. So I might ask them to act out, I might ask them to create a mask or create a play. It depends on what happens in the journey, but it's a very powerful tool and I always use it, always, and have done for the last 20 years or more.
it's pretty amazing. I mean, it is the most easiest way to correlate with the mythology because we have been listening them since our childhood, and using them in a therapy is, I think, the best way where you can relate yourself to what has already been happened, and you know how to come over on it with the great examples to the mythology. Like you mentioned, people can see them in the form of a god or goddess and then relate to their stories of their own and find a therapy. So I think that's a brilliant thing you're doing right
It's amazing because what we're trying to do is find the relationship between, a universal myth and a personal myth. So a person will relate to different characters from these stories that resonate with the human experience. And again, it always comes back to this human condition, to know what it is to be human and to be on this journey. And through drama, we can kind of have a deeper experience through storytelling, through theatre. I believe that, performance itself, when you go and watch a play, you are transported. You go into the theatre and you're transported into the story. And so if you are either the actor or the audience member, you have an experience. And that's what I think is so powerful about theatre, is this, what I would call the liminal space. It's not here or there. It's the space in between where true transformation happens, when we step out of ourselves and go into these different roles.
Pretty awesome. So, what is your dream right now?
My dream.
Yeah,
A great question. So I've been coaching for just over a year. And my dream, my pure, where I'd really love to get to is a physical experience of the MYSTERYM program, which I created in a form of a retreat, so that clients could come for a week, 10 days to a location, preferably in Greece, if we're talking dreams, because Greece is where theatre, the masks, the gods, the energy I feel for the work I do is really present. So that is the dream, to run a 10-day retreat in ancient Greece, surrounded by the energy of these wonderful gods and the theatres, and to allow people to have a really deep experience with their own stories, because that's what I do. It's trying to unearth people's relationship to their own story.
That is pretty cute, I can say, to have people come to you and experience MYSTERYM. So what is MYSTERYM? I think you just mentioned it's the program that you have founded. So can you just enlighten us on the same aspect, like how it works and anything on MYSTERYM?
Sure. So when I did my research for my master's, I'm currently working on an article to publish in the Transpersonal Psychology Journal. But I created a method for my co-researchers to go through during the pandemic. So the experience was passage through the pandemic, through mask, ritual, and storytelling. And what I discovered is, with this particular model, that it allowed people to have a lived experience on a symbolic level. So I use a devised model that is inspired by transpersonal psychology. It's inspired by creative therapies and Jungian approach to coaching. And I take them on a quest. And so this quest is discovered on the journey. And often my clients have come to me because they've asked a question to themselves: where am I going next? So what am I doing next? Where am I going next? Who am I? They're often on a rite of passage, and they're stepping into something new, or they're stepping into a new age or stage. And so MYSTERYM is a play on words. In Carl Gustav Jung's Red Book, which is the final piece of work that was published, by this amazing mind. When I was doing my research, I just randomly opened the book and saw the word MYSTERYM, which means this liminal space, so the space in between. And I was really touched by that word, and I wanted to bring it into my work. And so I founded the MYSTERYM as a gateway for people to come into their rites of passage, to go on a quest, to experience this transpersonal and creative journey. And it's a 9-chapter program, where the 9 chapters can be over 9 weeks or a year. And they step consciously into their story through masks, ritual, theatre, and working with archetypes.
That's pretty fascinating, I can say, and amazing as well when it's on. So I hope people will try to explore more of MYSTERYM and come to you about the same. So I think we are done with our questions as well. So thank you so much, Mary. It was really an amazing experience speaking with you, and it was pretty insightful for me as well to understand psychology and how things work.
Thank you so much, Utkarsh, and thank you for having me on your channel, and taking the time and asking such insightful questions as well. It was lovely to talk about the dream and just to be reminded of this bigger picture. So thank you.
Yeah.